It was a Tuesday morning, the kind of morning that feels both ordinary and full of possibility. The world outside my window was painted in soft shades of gold and blue, the sun just beginning to peek over the rolling hills of Yorkshire. There was a gentle mist clinging to the fields, making everything look a little magical, as if the day itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The year is 2025. The date is November 10th. The calendar on my kitchen wall with its faded pictures of sheep and stone cottages confirmed it. The digital clock on the counter blinked 7:32 a.m., its numbers glowing quietly in the early light. It was the sort of day that felt like it could go either way. Peaceful or eventful, depending on the whims of fate. The air was crisp, as it often is in the Yorkshire Dales at this time of year. When I opened the window, a cool breeze drifted in, carrying with it the scent of damp earth, fallen leaves, and distant wood smoke. The grass outside sparkled with dew, each blade catching the morning light like a tiny jewel. It was the kind of morning that made you want to breathe deeply and savor the quiet. I had just finished my morning tea, a ritual I rarely skipped. The steam was still rising from my cup, curling in lazy spirals toward the ceiling. I cradled the mug in my hands, feeling its warmth seep into my fingers. There's something comforting about those first sips of tea, the way they seem to anchor you to the day ahead, no matter what it might bring. It was a peaceful start to the day. The house was quiet, bathed in the soft golden light of morning. I was looking forward to a quiet morning, perhaps reading by the window or tending to the garden. The world felt calm, and for a moment, I allowed myself to believe that nothing could disturb this gentle peace. My dog, Buster, was outside in the garden. He is a good border terrier, loyal and endlessly curious. He loves to dig in the soft earth, his nose twitching as he searches for hidden treasures. Chasing squirrels is his favorite pastime, and he takes his self-appointed job as garden guardian very seriously. I could see him darting between the flower beds, his tail wagging like a little flag. Then I heard a strange noise at the back door. It was not Buster's usual bark, or the frantic scratching he sometimes made when he wanted to come in. Instead, it was a soft, almost tentative scratching sound, a gentle, persistent tap, tap, tapping, as if someone, or something, was asking politely to be let in. The sound was so unusual that it made me pause, mug halfway to my lips. I went to the door, curiosity getting the better of me. My mind raced with possibilities. Had Buster found a hedgehog again? Or was it just the wind playing tricks? I placed my hand on the cool metal handle, hesitating for a moment as I listened to the quiet sounds from the other side. The tapping continued, steady and insistent, as if whatever was out there was determined to be noticed. When I finally opened the door, there was Buster, sitting proudly on the doorstep. His tail was wagging so fast it was a blur, thumping against the doorframe with excitement. He looked up at me with bright, eager eyes and a big, goofy grin on his furry face. It was clear he was pleased with himself, as if he had accomplished something truly important. But Buster was not alone. Next to him, huddled close for comfort, was another creature. It was not a squirrel, nor was it one of the rabbits that sometimes ventured in from the fields. This was something different, something unexpected. It was a small, scruffy cat. The cat was mostly ginger, with white paws that looked as if they'd been dipped in cream. Its fur was a little matted, and it looked a bit thin, as if it hadn't had a proper meal in days. The cat's wide, green eyes stared up at me, full of uncertainty and a hint of hope. It trembled slightly, clearly nervous, but it didn't run away. Buster nudged the cat gently with his nose, as if to reassure it. He seemed to be saying, "Look what I found! Can we keep him?" There was a tenderness in the way he moved, a protective instinct I hadn't seen before. It was as if he understood that this little cat needed a friend, and he was determined to be that friend. The cat didn't move. It just watched me, its eyes never leaving my face. I was very surprised. Buster had never brought a friend home before. He usually chased cats away, barking and bounding after them, with wild abandon. But this time was different. He was acting like a protective big brother, sitting firmly between me and the cat, making sure I was not a threat. The little cat seemed to trust Buster completely. It leaned against his warm, wiry fur, drawing comfort from his presence. For a moment, the two of them sat there in perfect harmony, an unlikely pair united by circumstance. I stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do next. A dog and a cat, arriving together at my door, It was a very unusual sight indeed. My mind raced with questions. Where had the cat come from? Was it lost, or had it been abandoned? And why had Buster, who had always been so territorial, decided to bring it home instead of chasing it away? The whole situation felt surreal, as if I had stepped into the opening scene of a storybook. I slowly opened the door wider, inviting them both inside. I wanted to see what they would do, how they would react to this new invitation. My heart pounded with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. I wondered if I was making the right choice, but something about the way Buster looked at me, hopeful, expectant, made it impossible to say no. Buster trotted inside without a second thought, his paws clicking on the tile floor. He looked back at his new friend, pausing in the doorway. He gave a little bark, as if to say, "Come on, it's safe in here." The cat hesitated, glancing nervously at the open door and the unfamiliar room beyond. For a moment, it seemed as if it might turn and run, but then it took a tentative step forward, drawn by Buster's encouragement. The ginger cat hesitated for a moment longer, its tail flicking anxiously. It looked around the garden as if weighing its options, then took a brave step over the threshold. It followed Buster into my kitchen, moving cautiously, but with growing confidence. I watched as the two of them disappeared around the corner, the cat's small form dwarfed by Buster's sturdy frame. It was a sight that made me smile, despite my lingering uncertainty. My quiet morning was officially over. The peaceful routine I had expected had been replaced by a sense of adventure and possibility. I had a feeling that my life was about to get a lot more interesting. The uninvited guest had arrived, and it seemed he had no plans to leave. As I watched Buster and his new friend explore the kitchen together, I realized that sometimes, the best stories begin with an unexpected knock at the door, and the courage to open it. The moment the little cat stepped inside, chaos began. It was a bright, crisp morning, the kind where sunlight streams through the kitchen window and everything feels calm and ordinary, but as the tiny ginger cat crossed the threshold, that sense of peace shattered in an instant. The air seemed to crackle with anticipation, as if the house itself sensed that something unusual was about to unfold. The cat's paws made barely a sound on the old wooden floor, but the energy in the room shifted. It was as if a storm had rolled in, silent, but powerful, and everyone inside could feel it. My other dog, a gentle golden retriever named Daisy, was sleeping by the fire. She was curled up in her favorite spot, her golden fur glowing in the soft light, completely unaware of the commotion about to erupt. The fire crackled quietly, and Daisy's breathing was slow and steady, the picture of contentment. She had always been the calm one in the house, the peacemaker, the one who greeted every morning with a wag of her tail and a hopeful glance at the treat jar. But today, her peaceful slumber was about to be interrupted in the most unexpected way. She woke up when she smelled the new animal. Her nose twitched, picking up the unfamiliar scent that drifted through the air. Her ears perked up, and she lifted her head, blinking sleepily at first, then with growing curiosity. She got to her feet, and walked slowly toward the kitchen, her movements cautious but determined. Each step was deliberate, as if she was trying to make sense of this new presence in her home. The kitchen, usually her domain, now felt different, charged with the excitement and uncertainty of a new arrival. She saw the little ginger cat. Her tail gave a slow, uncertain wag. She was curious, but also a little confused. Daisy had met other dogs before, and even the occasional rabbit in the garden, but a cat inside the house was something entirely new. She approached with gentle steps, her eyes wide and her body language open, hoping to make a good impression. The cat, meanwhile, stood frozen, its green eyes darting around the unfamiliar room, clearly unsure of what to make of this large, friendly creature. She had never seen a cat in our house before. She looked at me, then at Buster, then at the cat. Her face was full of questions. Was this new animal a friend or a foe? Was it here to stay or just passing through? Daisy's confusion was almost comical, her brow furrowed and her head tilted to one side. She seemed to be searching for answers, hoping that someone would explain this sudden change in her world. Buster was very excited. He ran around the kitchen in happy circles. He was showing off his new friend. His little legs moved so fast they were almost a blur, and his tail wagged with such enthusiasm that it thumped against the cabinets. Buster had always been the energetic one, the life of the party, and today was no exception. He barked joyfully, as if announcing to the world that something wonderful had happened. To him, The arrival of the cat was the best thing that could have possibly occurred on an otherwise ordinary morning. The cat, however, was not so excited. It was overwhelmed by the new place. Its eyes were wide with fear, and its body was tense, every muscle ready to spring into action if needed. The kitchen was filled with strange smells and sounds, and the presence of two large, unfamiliar dogs only made things worse. The cat pressed itself against the wall, trying to make itself as small as possible, hoping that if it stayed very still, it might become invisible. Its back arched high, its fur stood on end. It let out a loud hiss at poor Daisy. The sound was sharp and startling, echoing off the kitchen tiles. The cat's tail puffed up like a bottle brush, and its eyes narrowed to slits. It was a clear warning. Stay back, or else. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as everyone in the room processed the sudden outburst. Daisy, who only wanted to be friends, jumped back in surprise. She had never been hissed at before. She tucked her tail between her legs. She looked very hurt. Her big brown eyes filled with confusion and a touch of sadness, as if she couldn't understand why her friendly greeting had been rejected so harshly. She backed away slowly, giving the cat plenty of space, but her feelings were clearly wounded. It was not the friendly meeting Buster had hoped for. The kitchen suddenly felt very small and very tense. The air was thick with uncertainty, and every movement seemed to make things worse. Buster stopped in his tracks, sensing the shift in mood, while Daisy lingered near the doorway, unsure of what to do next. The cat remained on high alert, ready to defend itself at a moment's notice. It was as if the entire house was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I tried to calm everyone down. I spoke in a soft, soothing voice. "Easy now, everyone. It's all right." I knelt down, reaching out a hand to Daisy, giving her a reassuring pat. I glanced at Buster, who was still quivering with excitement, and tried to get him to settle. My words were gentle, but my heart was pounding. I knew that if I didn't handle this carefully, things could get even more chaotic. I tried to project calm, hoping the animals would pick up on my mood and relax, even just a little. I got a saucer of milk. I placed it on the floor for the cat. The cat ignored the milk. It was too scared. Its eyes flicked from the bowl to the dogs and back again, but it made no move to approach. I remembered stories of cats being soothed by milk, but this little one was far too anxious to care about food or drink. The saucer sat untouched, a small gesture of peace that went unnoticed in the midst of all the tension. It darted under the kitchen table. It found a safe, dark corner to hide in. The tablecloth hung down, creating a little cave where the cat could watch everything from a distance. Its body was pressed flat against the floor, and its ears were pinned back. From its hiding spot, the cat could see the whole room, but it felt protected, shielded from the chaos swirling around it. Buster tried to follow it. He wanted to play. I had to hold him back. "Give him some space, Buster," I said. "He's just frightened." Buster whined. He did not understand why his new friend was hiding. His tail drooped, and he looked up at me with pleading eyes, as if asking for permission to go after the cat. But I knew that what the cat needed most right now was time and space to feel safe. The morning was no longer peaceful. It was filled with barks, hisses, and whines. The sounds echoed through the house, bouncing off the walls and making the kitchen feel even smaller. What had started as a quiet day had turned into a symphony of animal voices, each one expressing a different emotion: excitement, fear, confusion, and hope. I could feel the tension in the air, and I knew I had to do something to restore order. Daisy was hiding behind my legs. Buster was pacing restlessly by the table. The little ginger cat was a ball of frightened fur in the corner. Each animal was reacting in its own way, but none of them were at ease. Daisy pressed close to me, seeking comfort and reassurance. Buster's energy had shifted from excitement to frustration, and he kept glancing at the table, hoping for another chance to make friends. The cat, meanwhile, remained motionless, its eyes never leaving the dogs for a second. I had to separate them. I put Buster and Daisy in the living room. I closed the kitchen door. The dogs protested at first, scratching at the door and whining to be let back in. But I knew it was the only way to give the cat a chance to calm down. I spoke softly to the dogs, promising them that they would get to meet the cat again, just not right now. The house felt strangely quiet with the dogs on one side of the door, and the cat on the other. But at least the tension had eased a little. I needed to give the cat some time to calm down. I sat on a chair and waited. I could hear the tiny creature trembling under the table. Its breathing was quick and shallow, and every so often, it let out a soft, pitiful meow. I wanted to reach out and comfort it, but I knew that patience was the best gift I could offer. So I waited, listening to the sounds of the house, the ticking of the clock, the distant barking of the dogs, and the quiet, nervous rustling from beneath the table. This was not just a surprise, it was a delicate situation that needed careful handling. I realized that introducing a new animal to the household was never simple, especially when emotions were running high. It would take time, patience, and a lot of gentle encouragement before everyone could feel comfortable again. But as I sat there, watching over my little family, I knew that with kindness and understanding, even the most chaotic mornings could lead to new beginnings.